This is how conservative YouTube lies to you. So we're on the Michael Knowles main channel here, and it's just him dissecting the same interview that David Pakman was yesterday, the JD Vance, Margaret Brennan, Face the Nation interview. Let's get into it.
Trump's mentee, J.D. Vance, was proving that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. He was doing an interview on CBS, Face the Nation, in which he was grilled on immigration, notably the claim that America was founded by immigrants.
Well, this is a country founded by immigrants.
Well, this is a country founded by...
country.
This is a very unique country, and it was founded by some immigrants and some settlers. But just because we were founded by immigrants doesn't mean that 240 years later that we have to have the dumbest immigration policy in the world.
Really good response from JD here, and I'm glad he got this settler word in. Because just at a very literal, historical level, America was not founded by immigrants. That's just a lie. The libs say it all the time. They've been especially saying it since the middle of the 20th century onward. But that is just part of the liberal mythos. That isn't real. America was founded by settlers. This isn't ambiguous. We have the records. We know the history.
He's wrong. This is one of those like porque no los dos situations where it can be two things at the same time. We were founded by settlers that were also immigrants. These were people. The word settler shares a synonym with immigrant. This is the epitome of word game, right? Just look up the definitions here. A settler is, sorry about that, a person who moves with a group of others to live in a new country or area. And an immigrant is a person who comes to live permanently in a foreign country. As you can see in this is like a mini thesaurus here. Settler is a similar word in immigrant. Immigrant is a similar word in settler. He's dog whistling to a group of people that don't actually care about the specifics. Like he doesn't care about the specifics here. Why he's trying to pull on sophistry here to make a non-point. Literally, it's purely for the purpose of dog whistling to a group of people that are also slightly not even slightly fanatical, because this is just like, he doesn't care. He doesn't care about any of this. That's the thing. He doesn't care about any of this. All he cares to do is make it confusing. He's just trying to give you a pocket if you already kind of have an inclination to agree with him on feels, to feel like you have some kind of legitimate justification because the words are different, but they're not different. And he's trusting that you won't look that up. He's trusting that you don't care enough to look up the difference. He cares that you trust him just enough to believe him and that you're just willing to take his information as slop. The word settler and immigrant are not meaningfully different in this context. If anything, they are meaningfully different in a way that makes the settlers look worse than even the most egregious MS-13 gang member. He is trying to draw a distinction between the American settlers that came over here and genocided millions of Native Americans to take over the land by right of decree of a foreign nation that we eventually overturned ourselves because we disagreed with them, versus a dude who's in his mid to late 20s coming over here because he's in a gang that said, hey, we have a lot of money that we can go make over there. He's trying to draw a distinction between those two and say the settlers were the good guys. They're different in a way that makes them better, justified even. But these immigrants, these gross, sweaty, and just steal our jobs and sell drugs to us, these guys are harming the country in a way that the settlers, honestly, they're better than them. This is birthright, nationalist, pseudo-fash propaganda here, where we're saying, like, we were different. We had a claim to the land. We had the right of king. We had the king's passage. You guys didn't. You guys, you MS-13, you gang members that are coming over here, and all of you thieves and criminals, you guys aren't what we were 400 years ago. We were different.
Called Mayflower Cigars, great cigar company. We also have the Zycar lighter available right now. We have some in stock. If you want it, go get it now. If it sells out, I don't want to hear about it. It's a sidebar. The Pilgrims on the Mayflower were not immigrants. They were settlers.
They were both.
Many of the other people who came were settlers. They came to a new land. They settled treaties with some of the people who were still there, even though it was a largely barren land, but there were still some people there. They established treaties, they had alliances, they fought wars. Sometimes wars were launched on them, and ultimately they conquered and won.
That is a very interesting reading of the conflict between the Pilgrims and the natives. He'd probably call them Indians, but I don't even want to get into that. What I really want to focus on is that he is unnecessarily making an ambiguation here for the purposes of, I don't even want to say confusing his existing audience. I think this is literally just a dog whistle to the people that already agree with him. People in his audience that might agree with him normally, but not understand the ambiguation here, the ambiguation between these two terms might just believe him on auspice and just like go like a mindless drone off about their day, thinking that settler and immigrant are these like vastly different words here, which is what I'm really concerned about. This is a dog whistle for Nazis, and if you're not a Nazi, you're just a like mindless conservative consuming Michael Knowles content, you might actually walk away from this video thinking that settler and immigrant, in the context that J.D. Vance and Margaret were discussing it, where J.D. Vance himself even said some were immigrants and some were settlers, you might come away from this thinking that these are like vastly different words, especially in the context that they were used here. Let's keep listening.
Back in those days, we still had a notion of the right of conquest, the law of
Literally.
conquest. And then now we have a country.
Literally, we were different because we had the right to own you. We had the right of conquest. We had, back then, sacred right doesn't exist anymore. We're too PC these days. We don't rule nations the same way. So, but hey, it worked out for us because we got to own America.
There's very, very little similarity between the settlers who came on the Mayflower and some MS-13 gang member who hops the wall on the Rio Grande and comes into America to bring very, very little.
The biggest difference is that the dude who came over here on the Mayflower literally wants to take over the country, whereas the gang member is just trying to make a shit living for his, like, he's literally just coming here to sell drugs. This is a conservative reading of, like, if I'm just trying to take your most demonic interpretation of what that guy's intentions are, it's just to come over here and sell drugs and ruin our people, right? He's literally not even trying to conquest us in the same way as you're pointing out, which I suppose is your point, but it's like, it's such a fuck point. It's like, they're not the same as us. We wanted to come over here and rule over you guys. They just want to come over here and sell drugs. It's like, so that makes us better? We were the good guys then?
Some would say almost nothing in common. Okay, so JD here, he's saying, look, we were founded by immigrants in part, but it's also settlers, you know. And so immigrants have played a big role in America, but please stop repeating this ridiculous canard that we were founded by immigrants. We were not.
You're mad.
Even if we were, that wouldn't mean that we need to take 10 million of them all the time, you know, coming over from dubious circumstances, working with dubious criminal.
Goes to show that J.D. Vance was initiating the dog whistle. Michael Knowles knew to latch onto it and repeat it and regurgitate it to his audience. And now there's a bunch of people out there that are either knowingly fash, that feel like they have been signaled to, because it's like, yeah, we were different, we know it. And then other ignorant people that could be led into believing that these were, in the context in which they were discussed, vastly different terms, when in fact, America was founded by a nation of immigrants. We are a nation of immigrants. We are a nation of people who came over here to take over the country, to live in it permanently. Don't misunderstand this video. I'm not saying that we should be letting in MS-13 gang members. I'm simply stating that the way that conservatives try to lie to you is by rewriting history. They want to sit here and say, oh, they weren't as good as us when we came over here. And it's like, motherfucker, you guys weren't good when you came over here. Why would you make that comparison? It just makes you look worse. They hope that you don't know anything about history. They think you're stupid. Which is the definition, not the strict definition of immigrant. That's also not the strict definition of settler either, right? Settler is a person who moves with a group of others to live in a new country or area. Nowhere here does it say that they necessarily need butcher, mass group of people to do so. Really what we were was genocidists, okay? America is a group of people that were founded by people that want to commit genocide, wanted to commit genocide on Indians, and there were Native Americans, really. And there were some good people, too, if we want to be all like... I'm sure there were some good Americans that came over here, you know, that had good intentions, but the vast majority of us, the vast majority of our ancestors, if you will, that came over here on the Mayflower, etc., saw the Native Americans that lived here as savages. I said second-class citizens in the original take, but if we're being real, they saw them as savages. Let's be real. And decided that they didn't have as much of a right to that land as they did. Do you want to be that? Is that really who you admire? Is that what you aspire to be? Is that the society that you wish to promote?